to Sunday morning. There could be a few glimmers of sunshine across central southern parts of England, later on into parts of Wales, but for most of us it will be cloudy, further outbreaks of rain at times, and notice the wind still coming in off the North Sea, so eastern coast particularly chilly for the time of year. Best of the temperatures towards the west and southwest, reaching double figures in any brighter spells. Into Monday, another cloudy day, the wind still driving in outbreaks of rain and low cloud from the North Sea. The best of any brighter spells will be across western areas, but even here it will remain on the cloudy side, and it remains cloudy right through much of the week. Largely dry, though there will be some light rain, and the winds will generally start to ease too.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We have a ton of top prizes to be won in our spring giveaway. There's a massive £12,345 in tax-free cash to spend however you like, along with £500 in shopping vouchers for your favourite store, a games console, a pizza oven and a portable Sonos smart speaker. And the best news? You could be our next big winner, just like Phil.
Whoever wins it next is going to be as happy as I was, and they're going to get even more money this time round, so why wouldn't you go in the draw?
For your chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text prize to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, coming up on the Saturday Night Showdown. A British man has been jailed for 2 years for stickers, saying things like, "It's okay to be white." It's exposing our two-tier justice system that allows anti-Israel protesters to scream for genocide while slamming British nationalists for the slightest infraction. His political opinions aren't my cup of tea, but this Orwellian decision sets a dangerous precedent for all of us. And poshos for Palestine, and the not-so-surprising revelation that the vandal behind the attack on a painting of Lord Balfour was wearing a £1,000 Mulberry backpack, a luxury handbag to keep her luxury opinions in. And everyone's favourite beer mascot, Dylan Mulvaney, has had a go at stand-up. But is he, she, they, whatever, I just read the pronouns on his badge, as convincing at being a comedian as he is at being a woman? I'll be discussing with my panel of comedians. This is your Saturday Night Showdown. Discussing all of tonight's topics are my brilliant panel. Joining me tonight, hotshot lawyer Andrew Eborn and the top comedians Diane Spencer and Quincy. But first, let's get your latest news headlines from Ray Addison.
Good evening, I'm Ray Addison in the GB Newsroom. Our top stories. The Prime Minister says he plans to pay for cuts to national insurance contributions by curbing the benefits budget. Rishi Sunak told the Sunday Times he's concerned by forecasts which show welfare spending is set to rise by more than £100 billion a year until 2028-29. Mr Sunak said 2.5 million working-age people have been signed off as unfit to work, and, quote, that just doesn't strike me as a system that's working properly. He insists he'll end national insurance contributions if he wins the next general election. Well, the UK was involved in a joint operation overnight which saw dozens of drones downed in the Red Sea. The Defence Secretary confirmed that HMS Richmond shot down 2 drones, repelling an attack by Iranian-backed Houthis. The US says in total, coalition forces hit 28 unmanned aerial vehicles. In a post on social media, Grant Shapps said the UK and its allies will continue to take the action necessary to save lives and protect the freedom of navigation. Huge crowds have marched through central London and Glasgow demonstrating against the war in Gaza. Thousands took part in the Palestine Solidarity Campaign protest. They're demanding an immediate ceasefire. In London, the rally began at Hyde Park and finished at the US Embassy. The Met Police says there was no significant public order disturbance, but 6 people were arrested and 1 man was later de-arrested. Well, meanwhile, the Met says officers are dealing with multiple public order offence across London. The force says there are pockets of violent disorder in Bermondsey, where officers are dealing with fans as they travel to the Tube. Over 2,300 officers have been policing 11 events today, including 8 football matches, an international rugby fixture and, of course, the pro-Palestine protests. 2 Tory MPs have used a social media post to demand more defence spending in further signs of tension within the Conservative Party. Foreign Office Minister Anne-Marie Trevelyan and Security Minister Tom Tugendhat published an article appearing to criticise the absence of funds in the recent budget for defence. They're calling for a spending increase to at least 2.5% of GDP, citing global risks posed by countries such as Russia and China. Police are investigating whether any criminal offences have been committed at 3 branches of an undertaker in Yorkshire. Cordons are in place at Legacy Independent Funeral Directors in Hull and East Riding. That's after Humberside Police received reports of what it says was concern for care of the deceased. That was on Wednesday. A direct line has been set up for anyone who may have been affected. For the latest stories, you could sign up for GB News alerts by scanning the QR code. It's on your screen right now. Or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now, back to Leo Kearse.
Welcome to the Saturday Night Showdown. Just in case anyone was under the impression that we live in a free and fair country, a man was sentenced earlier this month to 2 years in prison for stickers that said such inflammatory racist things as "It's okay to be white." Just to be clear, I do not think that this is acceptable. It is definitely not okay to be white. Anyone who's thinking of being white should hand themselves into the police to be Trudeau'd up a bit. Now, I don't want to downplay the severity of Sam's stickering rampage, so I'll read the report from The Guardian, a left-wing newspaper. Leeds Crown Court heard the charges related to racist stickers Melia allegedly designed and produced between 2019 and 2021, which he had then posted in public places around his community and encouraged thousands of online followers to imitate. They bore slogans such as "Reject white guilt," "Nationalism is nurture," "We will be a minority in our homeland by 2066," and "Diversity designed to fail, built to replace." Detective Chief Superintendent James Dunkerley, head of the counter-terrorism policing in the North East, said at the sentencing with no hint of irony, "Those that seek to bring hatred to our communities through actions such as stickering will be identified and brought to justice." Wow. I mean, thank God this monster is off our streets. Imagine if one of those Mohammed cartoon protesters saw such a sticker and got so upset that they dropped their sign saying, "Behead those who insult Islam," and had to go back to their council house before they got a chance to chant for jihad. Or imagine if a BLM protester saw one and got such a fright they dropped their sign saying, "Kill Whitey," and their books on abolishing the white race. The stickers carried some very dangerous messages such as "Reject white guilt." Listen, Sam. White guilt underpins a multi-billion-pound industry in diversity, equity and inclusion. Some of those diversity coordinators just have a few payments left to make on their yachts, and you want to stop their grift now? Are you mad? Another sticker said, "Nationalism is nurture." The horror! Someone could see that and think that it's okay to love their country. And our authorities wonder why military recruitment is falling when the basic requirement for serving, feeling such a strong loyalty and devotion towards your country that you're willing to die for it, is criminalised. Another sticker said, "We will be a minority in our homeland by 2066. I mean, this is dangerously rose-tinted nonsense. The way immigration is accelerated under Rishi, we'll be a minority by Tuesday. This case is important because it exposes the two-tier nature of hate crime policing and shows how you can now be jailed for your opinions, the wrong-think that George Orwell warned us about. I'm not arguing that Sam Melia isn't a naughty man with some naughty opinions, but we can all see that the law isn't applied fairly. There's a gulf in how people like Melia are treated compared with the far left or Islamists that's visible from space. And this two-tier treatment does far more to stir up racial tensions than anything a few stickers could do. The same week that Sam Melia was jailed for stickers, George Galloway, a man who said equally provocative things, was elected to the British Parliament by Muslims in Rochdale. Although, to be fair, it's not the worst thing Muslims have done in Rochdale. And just look at how the judge who handed Sam his sentence, Tom Bayliss KC, he's seen here having a good old virtue signal next to a statue of Mandela, let off much worse criminals. Tom Bayliss gave a man who had sex images of children as young as 3 no jail time. He clearly feels the need to protect the hypothetical feelings of hypothetical people who might read a sticker saying it's okay to be white, but the feelings of very young children being subjected to the worst crimes in humanity don't matter as much. He gave someone caught with $4,000 worth of crack and heroin no jail time. Apparently a big pile of hard drugs does less damage than stickers. Other racially motivated crime seemingly gets a pass if it's by a different group. Hamoud al-Suwami, a Muslim member of a grooming gang who targeted children based on their race, was found guilty of sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl and received no jail time, just 180 hours of community service. Mosques across the country, such as Birmingham's Green Lane Mosque, host hate preachers who teach their followers such enlightened ideas as the correct way to stone adulterous women to death or execute homosexuals, and openly spread hate against infidels, i.e. British people. Not only is this tolerated by the authorities, Green Lane Mosque was incredibly awarded millions of pounds of government funding. And take a look at these guys here.
Or hatred for the non-Muslims doesn't stop us from being unjust to them. My argument would be it also doesn't stop us from coexisting with them, living in a society with them.
But I can be in a land where I live with these people, but I have hate for them. I don't like them.
British Muslims merrily chatting about the hate they have for Britain and showing their followers that this can be done without any fear of repercussions. If these were white men talking about a different race, they'd be locked up faster than you can say blatant two-tier policing. And every week we see marches on the streets of Britain with anti-Semitic chants calling for genocide and jihad, and the police are instructed to stand and watch. Although they can still get tough if any white men appear for a football match. They even arrested a man who's waving an anti-Hamas placard. The police have denied it was for the placard, but in Sadiq Khan's London, it seems acceptable to chant for jihad, but illegal to oppose terrorists. We are living in a clown world. Let's have a look at what the protester said.
He told me, is it a danger for your life and for the people when they see maybe attack you?
And what did your sign say exactly?
Hamas is terrorist. This is it?
Yeah.
Nope.
That was the sign.
Police.
And that's what your sign said.
I told to police, they attacked me, and I want to complain.
Okay.
They say go to police station near your home.
A man detained for opposing Hamas terrorists. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the people at the anti-Israel protest had actually downloaded some of Sam's stickers as well. I mean, look at this placard claiming that Zionists control the media. Why is this guy allowed to wave it in public while Sam goes to jail? It's his intent and ideology that was on trial. He's been jailed for his opinions. We're told the state has the ability to peer into someone's brain and measure their intent. This shows the weakness of laws that punish people for intending to stir up racial hatred. They can be interpreted however the state wants and applied with discretion to silence whoever they want. Now, I don't approve of what Sam did. I think it's very silly to put up stickers saying people born in Britain should be deported. I think that being British isn't about skin tone at all. It's about the culture and values that you hold, and the culture and values that made Britain great: equality, tolerance, individual liberty, fairness of law. But his sentence rankles with me, not just because it shows there's no fairness of law, but I think the thought crime element of his conviction doesn't hold water. I've spoken to some nationalists, and overall, they don't seem to be driven by a desire to stir up racial hatred. If anything, it's the opposite. The overwhelming sentiment underpinning them seems to be concern about their country and concern that mass immigration, lack of integration, and the rise of Islamism are leading to disharmony and hatred. And what precedent does it set for other people? Sam's wife Laura was debanked 5 years before they came for the mainstream politician Nigel Farage. These measures to punish and censor people start at the fringes and work their way inward. It's not even doing any good. The authorities' heavy-handed attempts to stamp down on people like Sam Melia are backfiring by drawing attention to their message. Far more people will have seen Sam's stickers because of his conviction, and the state have somehow managed to make him a sympathetic figure amongst all this nonsense. Never mind stickers, the state should take their two-tier approach and stick it where the sun don't shine. Anyway, I'm joined tonight by lawyer, broadcaster and futurist Andrew Eborn, comedian and fudge enthusiast Diane Spencer, and award-winning funny man Quincy. Now, Andrew, I'm going to start with you because you've got a legal background. I mean, it seems our hate crime laws rely too much on intent and what the prosecution and what people imagine the intent and the thoughts behind
a terrible two-tier treatment, as you say, an amazing avalanche of alliteration. The reality is this: it's Section 18 of the Public Order Act 1986, which talks very specifically about use of words or behaviour or display of written material where they intend, and that's the key element, they intend thereby to stir up racial hatred. Now, every legal stuff, there's a serious bit of it, there are two things to it. There's what's called the actus reus, which is the act itself, and the other is what's called the mens rea, the guilty mind. The trouble with this is you get the headlines. So the newspaper, you get all these terrible reports and people get off. What they started to do in the legal system is to basically broadcast a lot of the sentencing so they can explain their rationale behind it. So what happens, this happened about, I think, 2 years ago, where the very first case, they did the sentencing guidelines and they unpacked it, because every sentencing council has that. They give you a guideline as to what to do, but you start with the finding of fact. And so in this case, they found out his intent was to be racial. It was, and that was the thing. You might disagree with that because that's our headline. It's easy to compare all the other judgments and so on and so forth, but without looking at the whole case, it's very difficult. And I always say trust comes in on foot, but leaves on horseback. What we need is clarity to make that work.
And I don't think we're getting that clarity. I mean, Quincy, this seems totally like we're seeing one group of people treated one way and another group of people treated a completely different way.
I'm going to give my right honourable friend, how you articulated that argument was absolutely superb.
Thank you.
Because
you can come again, Quincy.
Yeah, because Section 18 of East London is bang out of order. All right. And what is... This geezer's saying, right, it says in your rhetoric, you were saying that in 2066, that there's going to be no white people, right? So he want to spend...
That's a minority.
Minority, no white people, basically, right? So what I'm trying to say... so basically, he want to spend less time worrying about everybody else, right, and start making love to his missus and get some babies. That's what he needs to do.
Well, how's he going to do that when he's in jail?
I can volunteer, right, and start off with, and get some more colour into the country.
You're offering to work as a fluffer.
Yeah, there you go. You know what I mean? If that's what his main concern is, that there's no people who look like him in 2066, well, I don't think, looking at the size of him, he's going to live that long.
Well, I'll tell you one interesting thing, Quincy. There was a song by Blue Mink. Do you remember? You might remember this. Blue Mink, who did, and they had a line in it several years ago saying they're going to be coffee-coloured people by the score, and that's what they're predicting. And there's several years ago.
Or Americanos.
There you go.
This was when coffee just came in one colour. You know what I mean? Before there were millions of different types of...
That's what they said.
But this, I mean, that quote, the white British people will be a minority in their own country by 2066, that comes from an Oxford professor. That's not, plucked from...
Yes, who's clearly don't sleep with his missus, yeah? I'm just saying...
You're saying all these nationalists... But the trouble with a lot of British nationalists is they're just not sexy enough to procreate. I mean, no offence to British nationalists out there. A lot of them just look weird. Some of them just look at Nick Griffin. Who's gonna jump on that?
You are in dangerous territory right now because the attractiveness of people has been discussed before on this channel, not in a very good way.
A five-pointer, that was the phrase, wasn't it?
I would just say that if you look at what he was doing, he was putting these small stickers on lampposts. Now, if you take your political leanings from something you've read on a lamppost, you've got to accept you're a bit simple to start with. But you did raise an excellent point. It's an asymmetrical application of authority going with the alliteration.
That's it.
And also, as well, what I reckon what happened as well, those stickers he's put on those lampposts, right? Reason why he's probably gone to jail, because he's covered some lost dog or cat.
And you think that's what's happened? You think the dog's missing?
And that's what sent him to jail. It was nothing to do with it. It's just like, Rover has been missing and you've covered it over. No, I'm not sending him to jail.
And that's the judges. That's the judges
thing.
dog.
What they need to do, in all seriousness, to get trust back in the legal profession is to explain those other cases that you explained and you mentioned, referenced in your brilliant monologue. Because as soon as you have that as a headline, say he didn't go to prison for this, or they let him off with a little smack and being a naughty boy or a naughty girl, then it makes the whole thing look ridiculous. What you need is clarity across the board, which is why they introduced TV or not TV. It's why they introduced televising of sentencing, so we get better trust from the public.
And do we get that in the UK now, or is that just in America?
We do, and no, we get it here. Wall-to-wall television in America, which is brilliant. In court, strangely, I was sitting with Harry in his case, and there was a little artist. You have wall-to-wall television, pictures and videos in America. You have little sketch artists doing this sort of stuff, which is bizarre. So we don't have that yet. We do have it for the sentencing, however, and the idea of that is basically to encourage people to understand the process. If you understand the process, you can get trust in it.
Yeah, but I think I understand this process, and I don't think it's been applied fairly. And also, I see people waving, like Jeremy Corbyn, waving the hammer and sickle. That's an offensive symbol to me. It's communism. It's killed tens of millions of people. I mean, on the plus side, most of them are communists. But, it's still bad.
Yeah, but one of the big problems is who is in charge of what is OK to think.
Yeah.
Because this is exactly what he has been detained for. I don't agree with pretty much 90% of anything that he said. I do think it's OK to be white. I really don't have any choice. But he's a vile person, but that's his thinking. And when you showed actually those clips, this is what I mean. If you see a sticker on a lamppost, is that really going to sway what you think? But whereas you see people walking around chanting, behead anybody who doesn't believe in Islam, that is a much more imposing
and it's absolutely, it is freedom of speech, but it's not freedom of consequences, and that's the reality. You need to enforce it, and you need to enforce it across the board.
And what we really want to know as well, can he put those same stickers in that cell he's going to be in for the next couple of years?
We'll find out. Anyway, coming up, we will assess the week's winners and losers in Cursed or Blessed. This week, we've got Mike Tyson fighting Jake Paul, Dylan Mulvaney trying stand-up, and an anti-Israel protester slashes a painting but reveals her poshness. And we'll show you what happened when this guy delivered his speech in a house of God.
Maybe minorities, sexual and gender minorities, have something to teach the church about dying to self, about new life.
News & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
Get this right, we all know by now, don't we, that so many NHS workers are abused by people that they're trying to help. We'll all agree that that is pretty damn disgraceful, but what do we do about it? Because now some London hospitals are looking at whether or not they should be able to ban people that do this for a year from those hospital facilities. Is that the way forward? Daniel, do you like this? No abuse, no excuse, that is the campaign?
There's no other choice for most people. It's either the NHS or nothing. And if you're going to take that monopolistic power, then you need, I think, you have responsibilities towards people. You can't cut them off. So there are ways in which, of course, you can bring criminal charges against them. If they commit a criminal offence, that's fine. They might even be locked up in jail. But what you can't do is cut off health services because you're the only supplier.
Well, yes, I think you can cut it off, and you should cut it off. London is very different from everywhere else, and it goes back to a conversation about immigration. The majority of nurses in London are either African or Filipino, and it harks back to their nature and their culture. When you're younger, your parents look after you. When you're older, you look after them. They don't go into homes. So there's a way that a threshold of tolerance they have that is above and beyond most people. So, because I found like when I was younger, most of the nurses were white. Now they work in hospitals in Ascot and Somerset. London is the war zone. I have seen horrific things happen to nurses, and they stay. They show up for work. There's a protection they are owed, beyond owed. And if you abuse something that's offered to you as a part of your citizenship, there should be a penalty for that. For the same reason,
you're obliged to use it. There's no offer involved in the NHS.
But it is but there is an offer, because at the end of the day, like you figure out how to get money and go private. So just because you've created something that gives you no, it's easy. If it's
that's
easy,
an impossible solution.
They've created something that's kind and easy and beneficial to all, indeed. But it's a good thing for all. Do not abuse it. That simply.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From 10 a.m. every Saturday, we want to make you think and we want to make you laugh.
So we will give you all the top stories.
Now we start with a story that has shocked the nation this week.
But we're also going to make it light and fun and bring some entertainment in to make your Saturday morning nice and restful.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Here we go.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Kirster Blessed coming up, but first I promised I would show you what happened when this guy gave a speech in the House of God.
Maybe minorities, sexual and gender minorities, have something to teach the church about dying to self, about new life, about...
That was unnecessary.
That is not a sign of God's judgment, okay?
I think God literally hit that pulpit with lightning.
He missed the trick. He should have done this and said, "Many hands make light work." It would have been brilliant.
Yeah, well, it's time now for Kirster Blessed. Me and my brilliant panel will look at 3 big stories and decide who are the week's winners and losers. First up, you may have seen the footage of the Palestine protester vandalising a painting of Lord Balfour, the man behind the 1917 declaration supporting a home for the Jewish people in Palestine. Well, there's been an update. It looks like the little madam carried her red spray and scissors in a rather expensive satchel. A £1,000 mini black quilted Cara Delevingne Napa bag. That's probably not how you pronounce Delevingne, is it?
You said it so well, Leo.
I'm Scottish. I'm Scottish. I'm not used to words like Delevingne.
I think Leo just read out. Leo just read out the Wi-Fi pass.
Wait, how do you pronounce Delevingne?
Delphine.
Delphine. Why is it written like that then? It's written Delevingne.
She's an international superstar. How do you not pronounce her name?
Sales will plummet now.
She needs to learn how to spell Delphine, if you ask me. Anyway, it's a bag by Mulberry. If anybody's looking for a fancy present for the wife. So this is a Cambridge student with a designer bag, was destroying Balfour's portrait, simply elite virtue signalling. We never see working class people defacing art. I mean, Quincy, do you think Just Stop Oil are jealous? Because this is somebody who actually got through the perspex.
I actually saw that, and I personally feel that that could be classed as abstract art. You know what I mean? She could have remixed it. So
like
I
when
look.
Banksy, when Banksy shredded his own painting at auction.
Yeah, and it went up in value as a result.
Yeah,
It's a glorious thing. And the hammer went down, and this wonderful picture went through the thing, brilliantly shredded.
Well, I think most modern art would go up in value if you shredded it.
I have to say that was disgusting, however, and there's a big, calling it out. I mean, forget her bag, however beautifully you sold it. The reality, that is absolutely appalling. She deserves to go to jail. You're talking about sentencing and things like that. That needs to be stopped, and that needs to be stopped right now. So people need to act incredibly quickly and condemn that.
Yeah, and also Lord Balfour, I mean, he actually was an advocate for the rights of Palestinian people.
But also he was... See, this is the thing. History and people are more complex than just one tiny little thing that they did. He was one of the reasons why women could go into universities, and he created the Education Act, and he wanted to do so much to help so many people, and she's just read one thing, gone mad, and gone in there and committed this horrendous act of a beautiful painting by a very talented artist. And I went and actually saw Banksy's exhibit in Glasgow, and that painting that got shredded, the amount of iterations they had to do to actually build the mechanism to go off at exactly the right time, absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And I personally feel the security should follow her to prison as well, because they stood there and watched her do that.
Yeah.
Did they?
And I can imagine them all sitting back thinking, I don't get paid enough for this. They sat there like Tesco security guards.
It's like the one time. It's the one time they actually
you had
need to
one
do their job.
You had one job.
And nobody ever goes into slash painting. So that's the one time they could actually earn their money, and they didn't. Anyway, Dylan Mulvaney. Remember him, her, they, them, it, that. The transgender TikToker who tanked Bud Light after he was featured in one of their adverts. Well, he's tried his hand at stand-up as well. In a skit that surfaced on social media, Mulvaney takes aim at concerts.
I would feel like I was a part of something bigger than this. That was a double entendre. Look at me doing stand-up. The conservative men are just pissed that I can beat them in beer pong. And the conservative women are pissed that their kids are calling me mother in all of my Instagram posts.
Now, we have a few comedians on the panel tonight. What's the verdict on Dylan's efforts? I mean, Diane, I love the way Dylan convincingly spanks his bum, just like a real woman, just like real women do all the time. In no way a caricature of womanhood. But what do you rate the stand-up? Is it as convincing as the transition?
I mean, number one, when you do stand-up as a woman, you have to deal with the innate sexism that you get the second you walk on stage. You don't get it from everyone, but every so often you'll get somebody who'll just look at you. I've had people literally go, nah, and like just fold their arms, walk away. I've had people loudly ordering drinks to each other.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Dilvan's ever going to have to necessarily put up with that. I think it's interesting. Like, I personally didn't enjoy the act, but it's comedy.
Yeah.
So somebody else is going to find it funny. I personally didn't, but I don't think it's been written for me. No. Andrew loves it.
Oh, no, credit where... Absolutely, you're absolutely right. I'd love you even more if you brought fudge. Credit where credit is due, however. I thought Dylan did incredibly well. I have seen...
Dilvan.
I used to be chair. I used to be... Well, who?
Dilvan.
Is it Dilvan? No, it's Dylan.
Dylan.
It should be, shouldn't it be?
Well, now it is my turn to correct the name for you.
Look at you, not just misgendering, but adding consonants. There's nothing worse, nothing worse. I thought Dylan did very well, and I've seen far worse. I used to be chair of the Montreux Comedy Festival, and people come from all over the world, and I thought she delivered pretty well. I thought the material, okay.
Yeah, for a first go,
come on.
I've seen much worse. I'm pretty sure I was much worse than that.
Yes,
and also probably more famous.
I liked how the person was literally... Notice I said person. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Look at you, so right on.
I liked how they brought Asda's into it, because they all slapping the back. Brought Asda's into it, and this just shows me that this ain't my world, because I didn't know who that person was until I walked into this building.
Right.
Yeah.
So you go.
Right. Well, it's great. They're now sponsored by Asda. Well, moving on, after Anthony Joshua's victory last night, boxing fans have another battle to look forward to. YouTuber Jake Paul is to take on former heavyweight Mike Tyson in July. With a mere 30 years between the two of them, it's been alleged that fights like this degrade boxing altogether. Not that either participant will be concerned. They're expected to earn more than $9 million each from the fight. I mean, I don't know, I feel like this is when Rome was in decline and the emperor staged these fights in the Colosseum, you know, increasingly bizarre fights between giraffes and bears and things like that, to try and distract the people. But Quincy, you're a boxer as well.
Are you?
Used to.
I used to love your act, by the way.
Everyone online going, I'll fight you.
Jake Paul probably would.
Jake Paul, being from that world, to me, is the biggest liberty that it diminishes boxing as an art form. It just shows that money talks, even as we saw last night with the Joshua fight.
Yeah.
That Francis Ngannou should not be in that ring with him.
Yeah. Because he's not a boxer.
He's not a boxer.
MMA.
I mean, he's a great MMA fighter, but he's not a boxer. And Jake Paul fighting a 57-year-old legend. He ain't fighting a boxer. He's fighting a brand. Yeah. And that's the bottom line. Yeah. So who's next? Do I fight Elvis?
I think you should fight Elvis. I think that's a
don't
great...
give them ideas. But I mean, Andrew, this is. It does seem like it's almost exploitative. I mean, Mike Tyson is 57. To be fair, I've seen some footage of Mike Tyson training and sparring, and he looks like he could definitely batter me.
I know, you're right. And what I love is that new, invigorated Joe Biden's going to be in the next round, because I think that'll be fantastic. So he was brilliant the day before. P.T. Barnum, the great showman, said, if you want to draw a crowd, start a fight. And you're right, it's the big brands.
He wasn't talking about.
Be working on that.
He wasn't talking about boxing.
But he was around there.
It's kind of essential for boxing. You do need to have a fight at some point. Are you going to watch it, Diane?
I'm not very good with boxing. I mean, a little bit of blood and I'll keel over into my curry. But what I think is quite interesting with the point that you made about the brands is that I can think of one positive, and that there might be a whole generation of kids who know Jake Paul, but they don't know Mike Tyson, and he might get another little bump from it, which is kind of nice.
No, because the reality is this. If Jake Paul was fighting the Tyson on the way up, he wouldn't even think about that.
Oh, no, he wouldn't go anywhere near him.
So why wait for a man who's still got his name, like BMW, and then say, and you're not fighting him to beat him, you're fighting him just to keep yourself relevant. To me, you're disrespecting a legend. And even Mike Tyson's people, I would talk to them. You should be fighting this man. You've got a legend.
I was going to say Tyson could say no.
He could say no. He should say no.
He's got 9 million reasons why he's not going to say no. And I would work on that principle.
As you mentioned, Leo, you mentioned the fact of you see Mike Tyson do his shadow boxing. Logan, I've seen Keir Starmer punch a bag.
Yeah.
That's a fight.
I don't think Keir Starmer can beat the bag. Anyway, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, we've got the massive medical scandal around child transitioning that's breaking this week, and we'll show you how Hollyoaks is pushing a storyline about child transitioning. Plus, I'll show you what happened when this lady went to the shops.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. As we move into Sunday, it remains cloudy and damp across many areas, and we keep that keen easterly breeze too. And that's thanks to this area of low pressure just sat to the south of the UK, feeding in areas of cloud outbreaks of rain. The tight isobars indicating that brisk easterly wind there too. For the rest of Saturday into the early hours of Sunday, it remains cloudy, further outbreaks of rain, which could be heavy at times across parts of England and Wales, and then pushes northwards as we move through towards the end of the night. Temperatures generally staying above freezing for the vast majority of us due to the cloud and the outbreaks of rain. So for most, it's a cloudy, damp start to Sunday morning. There could be a few glimmers of sunshine across central southern parts of England later on into parts of Wales, but for most of us it will be cloudy, further outbreaks of rain at times, and notice the wind still coming in off the North Sea, so eastern coast particularly chilly for the time of year. Best of the temperatures towards the west and southwest, reaching double figures in any brighter spells. Into Monday, another cloudy day. The wind still driving in outbreaks of rain and low cloud from the North Sea. The best of any brighter spells will be across western areas, but even here, it will remain on the cloudy side. And it remains cloudy right through much of the week. Largely dry, though there will be some light rain, and the winds will generally start to ease too.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's Live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's Live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. First, I promised I would show you what happened when this lovely lady got more than she bargained for during a shopping trip. What I love about that, she didn't let go. She didn't let go of her shopping trolley.
Damn right she didn't. Absolutely brilliant. Well, she was in fact supposed to be going into the shop to clean it, and the guy who came and rescued her, I mean, it's a brilliant story, I've been loving it all week. What happened is the guy who came to rescue was the shop owner, and it was his fault, because he'd been trying to get the revenge of her forever, I think. And so she was sort of obviously hooked up on that sort of stuff. But you're right, holding on to the trolley for dear life is glorious.
I love that you've done the deep dive research on this.
The stories for everything. I can do everything from the whatever I can act it is, and the reason for that, to the slashing
and
stuff,
watching
to
that,
this.
Watching that clip as well, you've got to blame the government, yeah, because if they lowered lowered the age of retirement, right, she wouldn't have been here in the first place.
Ah, you're probably right.
She'd retired at 40.
There you go.
Yeah.
See?
I mean, it's lucky, you know, the obesity crisis isn't any worse, or she would have probably snapped and she'd have fallen. It could have been terrible. Anyway, Culture Corner next, and we'll be discussing the emerging scandal around the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, or WPATH. No relation to psychopath, although it should be, who have helped shape NHS policies for more than a decade. The Mail Online revealed this week that standards of care documents produced by the WPATH have been used as a basis for guidance to medical practitioners across the NHS. This guidance led to, for example, 96% of children sent for assessment to endocrinology clinics being given puberty blockers. These puberty blockers can have horrific side effects, including osteoporosis and infertility, and prescription of puberty blockers usually sets the kid on a pathway leading to fully transitioning. When concerned, healthcare professionals say that puberty usually resolves any feelings of being trapped in the wrong body, so you don't need to pump kids full of drugs. Shockingly, leaked video from a meeting of WPATH trans health workers revealed that they themselves don't believe the adolescents they're treating understand the consequences of their treatment, and crucially, a doctor says the kids aren't able to give informed consent about their treatment.
It's out of their developmental range sometimes to understand the extent to which some of these medical interventions are impacting them.
We do it. We try to talk about it, but most of the kids are nowhere in any kind of a brain space to really talk about it in a serious way. That's always bothered me, but you know, we still want the kids to be happier in the moment, right?
Other leaks reveal that WPATH doctors admit to experimental treatments, despite outwardly saying the WPATH is an evidence-based institution. I mean, Diane, were you shocked by these revelations?
I'm deeply alarmed because this WPATH, the World Professional Association of Trans Health, it sounds professional, does it? But it's actually a group of people, they pay to be members, and what was leaked, these files, came from a message board. And this group has been responsible for giving advice to other medical professionals and to clinics and producing guidelines on how they should treat children that are questioning their gender identity. And what is really alarming about this is that these people have admitted in private, oh, we're probably making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
How dare you admit that in private and not admit that publicly, because these are people's lives that are being irreparably changed by their actions. And a lot of these people have got connections, kind of, they're on the chair of WPATH and then they're also on the chair of like a medical board in a hospital.
So there's a financial incentive for them to be encouraging more transitions to happen because they're making money from them.
Yes.
I mean, Quincy, the thing that worries me, we're going to see a deluge of claims from people who feel that that have detransitioned and feel that they were sort of missold, not their PPI, but their transition. I mean, as a taxpayer, I didn't want to pay for the transition in the first place, and now I'm going to have to pay for them to detransition and have to pay for claims. I think I'm the real victim here.
I think that, personally, this is what I'm going to say. Yeah? Let me just take a sip. This.
There was also they did.
I was going to.
Oh, okay.
This is a dramatic pause.
Yeah, I was just going to say, look, the fact that it was leaked and they kept it in house.
Yeah.
I don't condone snitching. But in this case, all power to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's about kids potentially being damaged. It's horrific stuff. And there's no sign of companies cutting back on advertising with trans influencers, even though it sometimes backfires, as it did with Bud Light and Dylan Mulvaney. This week, Doritos, the corn crisps, have sacked trans influencer Samantha Hudson after it was revealed that Samantha had written social media posts threatening to do thuggish things to a 12-year-old girl. Other old posts by Samantha, born Ivan Gonzalez Renedo, read, "In the middle of the street in Mallorca in panties and screaming that I'm a nymphomaniac in front of a super beautiful 8-year-old girl. Not the sort of thing you want your mascot to be shouting." And another declared, "I hate women who are victims of sexual assault and go to self-help centres to overcome their trauma. Annoying," I can't say this word, but it rhymes with klutz. Samantha Hudson said they were sorry for the tweets, which were described as pure provocation and in very bad taste. Well, that's all right then. That's fine. I mean, like, literally sort of
That's what you want with a chip brand, isn't it? Bad taste.
Yeah.
When you're advertising food.
Yeah, the chips are certainly down. The reality is this, that everything you've ever said to anybody ever is going to come out. And work on that sort of principle. It was an appalling judgment. And a lot of people, when they're talking about damage limitation, if somebody takes you on as an agency or whatever, they say, look, tell us all the skeletons in the cupboard so we can deal with that. The brand are quite right to call it out. What was said there is despicable, and it's quite right.
Don't you think the brand should have done just like, I mean, everybody's got access to Google. Just Google and have a little search on their social media to see if they've said anything revealing themselves to be a massive paedophile before you hire them, surely.
Well, what's interesting there is they're hiring people based already on their social media traction.
Yeah.
So if you're hiring someone on their social media traction, like not their talent, not their audition, nothing like that, then how come it wasn't spotted?
Yeah. Well, maybe Satanists do run the world and the conspiracy theories are right. And the Channel 4 soap Hollyoaks hit the headlines this week for pushing the idea that it's absolutely, totally, completely normal for a male stranger in a dress to talk to your child without your knowledge. Take a look at this.
I'm a boy, but my body's all wrong, and how am I supposed to tell my parents?
I'll help you in whatever way I can. But you need to know that your life is in your hands.
I mean, this goes against everything I was taught as a kid. We're told to, stranger danger and all the rest of it. I feel like they're trying to sort of normalise the idea of, a trans woman coming in and talking to your kid behind your back.
I mean, I don't know the actual specifics of that storyline. I mean, soap operas have always been known.
Neither do I, but I made up. I filled it in with my imagination.
Never let the truth stand in the way of a good story. I know.
You do know there will be a character arc. There will be a whole soap operas have got a history of sort of tackling social issues. So I'm not actually surprised that Hollyoaks have brought this in, because as soon as something kind of is trending on X or whatever, they'll bring a storyline out about it and they'll explore it that way. Although I must admit, the way that was filmed was maybe talk to the DOP, because that was quite scary lighting.
I was just happy that my friend Richard Blackwood wasn't in that scene, because he's in Hollyoaks. You know?
Oh!
There you go. Yeah, because I think there would have been some ad-libbing in that scene.
But this is, I mean, we've seen Hollyoaks, well, not Hollyoaks, it was Brookside, the first lesbian kiss in a soap opera, although not the first one I'd seen, thanks to a taxi driver who sold my dad a VHS. But I mean, we're seeing people, you know, pushing sort of social progress, but I feel like this is a part of the progress that has, maybe we should have a warning about the potential downside, especially after what we've seen.
Well, I think there's a difference between showing a lesbian kiss or gay couples in soap operas, because it's supposed to reflect reality, so we're not shielding people from that. If you're pushing it down the other way, so it basically becomes the other extreme, that's got to be wrong. And we always talk about respect, but it's respect for everybody in the conversation. And what people are not going to try and do is look, why am I not doing this or why am we doing that? People get taken to pantomime where people dress up in outfits, and people object to you know, the people dressing up in to tell story time, you know, drag story time and so on and so forth.
At pantomime, they're like 20 feet away from the kids and they're acting on a stage. They're not like, they don't have the kid on their knee.
That was scary.
What did the wolf? You know what I mean? It's like, why? And also, why do you want to read stories to kids? Why don't you go into old folks' home? I'm sure old folks would love to have their day brightened by somebody in drag coming in and reading.
You're absolutely right. And this is what we need to look at. It's all about context, and it's all about that sort of side. But you're right. Respect. Let's recognise the diverse, glorious society that we have, but let's not shove it down their throats.
No pun intended.
I tried to fist up you. I set you up.
Or any other orifice. Next to the Saturday Night Showdown, we're going to tell you why SNP leader Hamza Yusuf is having a terrible week. Plus, I'll show you the unusual catch made by these fishermen.
Mark Dolan Tonight, weekends from 9 p.m.
I've personally been very torn on whether Prince Harry should have full police protection when he's in the United Kingdom. On the one hand, why should taxpayers fork out for somebody that's left the country and the institution? He is no longer a working, serving royal. But I don't think it matters. He is one of the most famous men in the world, and whether he's a royal or not, he is an ambassador for this country. And he still does good. Charitable causes, the Invictus Games, and he is still a nice and charming guy with a heart. And whilst he has left the royal family and departed these shores, he was and remains the son of King Charles. That is a biological fact. Well, let's hope so. And it wasn't his choice to be born into royalty. It wasn't his choice to be the son of the king. And for that reason, I think he should have equal police protection to his brother William when he is in this country. He couldn't be a more high-profile figure, and unfortunately, like all the royals, Harry will be a target for some very bad people. I fear that if, God forbid, anything happened to him or his family, the authorities would have blood on their hands. So, it's not often that I back Prince Harry, but on this one, he has my support. Look what happened to his poor mum, killed in a Paris tunnel in the 1990s with an allegedly drunk chauffeur. A top royal security insider recently told me that Diana would still be with us today if she had had top royal protection at that time. So let's not make the same mistake twice. Prince Harry needs full protection and the best we've got. Yes, he might be a numpty, but he's our numpty.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Sophie Ellis-Bextor is coming up, but first I promised I would show you what these fishermen caught. Yeah, that is Rick Waller, I mean. So what's the... I didn't know whether to say Rick Waller or James Corden there. Managed to get it completely wrong. I'm not doing well with names today. Anyway, it's not the weirdest thing we've ever caught, but that's between us and the STD clinic. It's time for Clown World, and starting us off is Sophie Ellis-Bextor singing Murder on the Dance Floor at the Bataclan, the site of the 2015 terror attacks. More offensive, I think, is the response of the authorities after every Islamic terror attack. They say, don't look back in anger. It's the religion of peace. Don't ask any questions or you're Islamophobic. I mean, Diane, I've got some sympathy for Sophie Ellis-Bextor. She had to sort of reference it before singing that song. And she could not sing that song because it's her... Just about her only song.
Yeah, it's her big old party piece.
Yeah.
But the Sophie Ellis-Bextor comes across to me as an incredibly nice individual, and that is a really, really great disco song, and they knew that they were booking her, but it was weird. Like, there is a cringy moment where she sort of acknowledges the song, and then she sings it, and the problem is, I don't think she could win in this situation.
Yeah, she had to reference it.
Yeah.
I thought she did win. She handled it with grace. It was rather like, you're killing it means you're doing very well.
Yeah.
The lyrics of the song are very unfortunate in the place that she sang because of the atrocities that happened. But it was made famous by the brilliant Saltburn. We were talking about this, and Barry doing his naked dance through the thing. You haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it. Well, I have spoiled it.
I've seen it.
It's a fantastic thing. And making that iconic song and her bringing it back again is superb.
Yeah, Saltburn is overrated. Anyway, talking of atrocities, it's been a bad week for Scottish First Minister Humza Yousaf. First up, the Telegraph revealed that he overruled official advice to give £250,000 to a Gaza aid agency linked to Hamas, allegedly, by Israeli intelligence. His own officials recommended a donation of £100,000 to UNICEF, but he overruled them and handed taxpayers' cash to the UNRWA, which, according to Israel, had employees who took part in Hamas terrorist attacks of 7th October. The employees have been let go. I think that's quite a bad thing to do as an extracurricular activity in your job. But there are also allegations that he breached the ministerial code as his in-laws were on holiday in Gaza at the time and needed to escape, which they successfully did. And then it came out on Friday that the SNP has received only one major donation from a living person since he took over as leader. In the time with Humza as leader, they've raked in only £75,000. Compare that with over £8 million when Alex Salmond was in power. Where has it all gone wrong for the boy Humza?
I mean, he's kind of proving that the SNP are really bad at finances, which we know from the luxury motorhome that was parked outside Nicola Sturgeon's mother-in-law's house.
Yeah, because they depreciate like milk.
Like all the financial documents inside. So already the SNP is mired in financial scandal. So why Humza Yousaf went against all of his advisors and thought this was a good idea? Ridiculous.
Well, finally, this week, I'm just going to squeeze this in. Trump showed that he's just a big kid who'll do anything for a laugh when he posted a video of Joe Biden's State of the Union address with a few funny filters. Let's have a look.
We're going to buy American. We're going to buy America. So trade rules. Buy America has been the law since 1933. Also caps and won't even go into effect until 2025. And by the way, that law was written and the benefit expires in 2025. New electric grids that are able to weather major storms and not prevent those forest fires.
OK, I mean, Quincy, are you looking forward to Trump's second presidency? It looks like he's going to win.
The fact that America is so big, those are the last two people who can save a combined age of Moses.
OK, well, right up next is Mark Dolan tonight. What have you got for us this evening, Mark?
Well, Leo, could a return of Boris Johnson to the Tories before the election save their fortunes? Also, after they got clobbered this week, are people that own second homes selfish? Plus, Meghan Markle is planning her UK comeback. Don't hold your breath.
Sounds brilliant, Mark. Can't wait to watch it. Well, thanks to my brilliant panel tonight, and I'll see you again next week. And don't forget Headliners as well, tonight at 11 p.m. See you next week.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. As we move into Sunday, it remains cloudy and damp across many areas, and we keep that keen easterly breeze too. And that's thanks to this area of low pressure just sat to the south of the UK, feeding in areas of cloud outbreaks of rain. The tight isobars indicating that brisk easterly wind there too. For the rest of Saturday into the early hours of Sunday, it remains cloudy, further outbreaks of rain, which could be heavy at times across parts of England and Wales, and then pushes northwards as we move through towards the end of the night. Temperatures generally staying above freezing for the vast majority of us due to the cloud and the outbreaks of rain. So for most, it's a cloudy, damp start to Sunday morning. There could be a few glimmers of sunshine across central southern parts of England later on into parts of Wales, but for most of us it will be cloudy, further outbreaks of rain at times, and notice the wind still coming in off the